And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Director at WEIU. Today we're going to talk all things Charleston Community Unit District Number 1. We have Kristen Holly here.
Hi, Jeff.
How you doing? Kristen
Good, how are you?
I'm good, Assistant Superintendent for Student Services, and the new number 1, Chad Burgett, Superintendent of Schools.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I appreciate it. And no Todd Villardo today. It's kind of sad.
I know. It doesn't feel quite right without him.
Working part-time for us.
I heard he's still hanging around doing some work. So we wish hope he's doing great. I know he is, so that's good. Well, you've wrapped up the fiscal year, or the school year 2025. Maybe just recap what's some of the good stuff that's happened at Charleston Schools in 25.
We had a lot of.
It's been a great year, really.
Mrs. Holly talk about a few of the things, but we kind of ended the year on a really high note. I don't know if we shared with you or not, but we from time to time try to get out in the schools and see what's going on, and we were invited to a 5th grade classroom, and at the end of the year they invited a teacher, former teacher Wanda Rule, who turned 103 last week. Wow. And she was able to go in and talk to the students about her experience. She started at Jefferson when the district formed 77 years ago. And just to watch the 5th graders ask her questions about what was it like to be a teacher and what did she teach, it was really meaningful to her. And I was just so proud of the students.
The students were genuinely engaged with her,
and very patient with her. But to listen to someone who turned 103 talk about their experience and how sharp she was, it was just really interesting. So that just made me feel good as a superintendent to hear the kids engage with someone that.
Did anything that she said to stand out or kind of give you that?
So many things.
We talked about having to start the fire in the one-room schoolhouse just north of Charleston, and then shovel the snow. And I think one of the things that the kids really didn't make a connection was the social media. You know, she said they didn't have a phone or Facebook and things like that. That was kind of a head scratcher on them. But a lot of really good questions.
They asked really good questions.
That's
cool. It was just really fun day those are the days you really enjoy when you get out and see those types of things.
Other stuff that's
well, I'd say one of the highlights for us, we tried something new this year. We had a committee. We worked on family engagement was one of our big goals. And so there was a group of us that got together and talked about a way to engage families. And we did our first ever Charleston School District Family Resource Fair in the spring, right after spring break. And I'll tell you, I told him I was wondering if we were going to have 10 people or 100. I mean, honestly, I had no idea how many people were going to come. We did a 2-night event. We had community groups all together to inform parents about different community activities. We had food trucks. We also had speakers for parents to sign up and learn more about various topics. We had EIU there. We had Lakeland there. We just had a number of people. And again, I was worried we might have 5 parents for all this. Between both nights, we had close to 700 people attend that event.
Cow.
It was massive, way, way bigger than I ever anticipated. So we're already planning the next one.
Hey, you got to get to 1,000 next year.
Oh, boy.
Mrs. Holly would never say it, but the amount of work that she and her team put into that project to get that off the ground was just...
That's incredible.
It was a great thank you. It made me really proud to see so many people there, and we got really positive feedback from the community, and so we'll do it again.
Well, that's one of the things that I was going to talk about later in the interview. We talk about now is the engagement with the community. It seems like now school districts and teachers really have to be more on top of that because there's so much misinformation out there with social media and phones and kids and TikTok and all this stuff that's going on. So have you found that that's something you're definitely going to continue to address? As engaging and letting people really know what the real truth is inside these school districts.
Yeah, we've learned that a lot. And you said it, we want to try to be ahead of any misinformation. So we had a new progress report in elementary this year. And we had very specific steps at the beginning of that to just inform and give everybody as much information as possible. We're going to continue to do that. We're actually designing some videos to put out and just some more documents, just parents that may not be able to come into the school or their schedule doesn't allow it, to give information to them instead of waiting for them to come to us. So
that's very cool. What about the number of graduates this year? How was Charleston High School's numbers?
We were up about 35 this year.
Okay.
So I think it was 183, I think. So We started a new program at the high school called Project Stay, and it was kind of geared for students who weren't on track to graduate and had to make up credits. Mr. Halsey's the teacher of that class, and through that class, I think 13 students were able to get their diploma. That may not otherwise on track. They may have had
one
to
is
come
good.
back.
13
Right.
is
Right,
great.
right.
So
Yeah, that
they
was
may
big.
have had to come back for another semester, but the work that he did and Mr. Locke at the high school, so we were really happy with that program.
Yeah.
What about this summer? What are the plans? Any work being done on buildings and
Yeah.
projects? Talk about that if you can.
We've got a number of roof projects going on with Health Life Safety Fund. So our sports complex was built about 27 years ago. We replaced those roofs, section of Mark Twain roof, section of high school roof, and then the fire alarm system at Carl Sandburg. You talked about engagement. Mr. Locke and the high school principal and Mr. Dedman, the athletic director, they've been working with some businesses in town. We're going to be looking at doing some upgrades with our facilities, and we'll have a presentation at this month's board meeting.
Oh, nice.
One of the banks in town, First Federal, is donating money for softball and baseball scoreboards. So we're working on the design of those right now and what they would like to have on the sign. So there's some other businesses in town that are looking to just kind of engage with us and what can we do to help our athletic programs. We spend a lot of money, as we've talked over the years, on fine arts. We did the Swicker Auditorium, the band and chorus room at the high school, but really haven't done much with our athletic fields and things like that. So I think we're going to try to make a shift to get better. We can do better. And then
Is the goal still to get to turf on football eventually or not?
Well, actually, that's one of the things we're going to talk about.
Okay.
But I, in my opinion, I mean, it'll be the board decision, but we may start with girls softball.
Okay.
That may be the first one to tackle.
Because it seems like everybody right now is going that way if they can find the funds, and I mean, it makes it easier for non-rainouts in multiple sports and things like that, and usage. What about at the end of the school year? Some teachers move on. Some teachers you want to move on, but are there a lot of openings already right now?
No, really not. We're
really?
actually in a really good spot. I
cool.
would say, knock on wood, this is probably the best shape we've been in the last 4 or 5 years as far as positions filled. We have less new teachers. We had a lot more people stay. I mean, we always have turnover. Every school does, but we have less than usual, and we have only a few positions left to fill. We're in
That's
a really
exciting
good
for the
spot.
summer, right?
Yes, I'm actually planning. I was working today on planning for beginning teacher orientation at the end of July, so already getting ready
We
for
were
them.
able to get school psychologists, which are very difficult to find.
Yep.
And then we're fully staffed with our SLP, our speech teachers.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have not been fully staffed, and I want to say 2 or 3 years with that group, and we were using online services, and that's enough to meet a need, but it's not really great, especially when you
Right.
think of a small
For
child.
speech and language pathology, not
So
ideal.
we're
Yep.
very grateful to be.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
I didn't. I usually check on that before, but I didn't know because I know a lot of people. People move and come and go, and their parent or somebody gets another job or
Right,
whatever.
yep.
Any news on the Apollo conference on additions or anything happening there or sports wise? You know me, I got to ask a sports
Right.
question.
I talked to Mr. Dedman. They've had Apollo Conference AD meeting, and no word on that front right now. So
Okay.
it looks like we're going to stay put with Lincoln leaving. I think they're always listening because I can't remember the name of the conference, but he said one of them was looking to maybe fold or break up, and then there may be an opportunity to get another district. But my concern is we're parents, and how far do you want to drive to be
Right.
part of a
Yeah.
conference? I don't want somebody driving 2+ hours
Right.
on a Tuesday night for a basketball game.
Yeah.
I know it seems like it's really starting down south. A lot of the southern conferences
Yeah.
are all switching. It kind of you almost have to let that play out and see what's left over if anything's close enough to move. Because it does stink to go to Salem or something on a Tuesday night, mostly first something like that. The new offices, you're going to move to 18th Street eventually. What's the status and plan?
Right now, we're finishing up this year's. That's a really good question. And
I'm looking at him for the answer too.
Ramin, who
Yes.
who interviews you as well for
Yes.
his show, he goes, "You got to ask him about the office."
That's and I get asked quite frequently by our staff in the office. We're in the administration building right now, and there are some community members who made some comments about when are you going to move. Our district has been really fiscal secure. fiscally conservative. We don't want to borrow money for the project. I'm going to have to look at the 1% sales tax and what we can do with that. And I think if I get another $1 million in that fund balance, we'll make the move. So hopefully that's a project I'm telling you about next year that we're going to start soon.
Well, that's good. That's a good answer there. One of the things that, when you talk about, shelf life of buildings, Jefferson is the oldest building. Is it in good shape? Is it the shelf life on it?
We've done a lot of work on the outside with tuck pointing and things like that. The shell of the building is in good shape. We do have the roof on the gym that was added in 2000. That needs to be replaced, but the shell's looking really well. What we need to do is get in there and find the funds to do a refresh, maybe with some of the carpet. We're doing some lighting refreshes right now. We've had some paint crews in there. They all got a coat of paint a couple years ago. So there are things we need to do, but the shell of the building's in pretty good shape.
That's good. So really, in the past few years when we've talked, there's been gigantic renovations over the summer. Looks like more just regular type work this summer at Charleston School District.
We did. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I think $15 million worth of renovations, which that's a lot of projects to try to stay on top of and things like that. But we've been really happy with the way they've all turned out.
For student services side of things, as technology and the country changes right now, is there curriculum changes or anything, new curriculum news?
Always curriculum changes. When you say technology, a big change this year was no cell phones at the high school. That was a welcome, surprisingly, a pretty smooth transition. We all, this time last year, worried about how that was going to go, and it was surprisingly pretty smooth and necessary. So, but as far as curriculum changes, technology related, not necessarily technology related, but we're always just ensuring that we have the most updated materials for students. We did a lot of textbook purchases over the last 2 years. We have new social studies curriculum. We have new science, just keeping everything up to date for students. We've tried, especially some of the courses at the high school had very old textbooks that maybe some of us had when we were in school.
I remember I can always remember the orange text. They must have been around forever. This one book, I don't know why I remember that when you said
We've been slowly replacing those. I'm confident that we have all very new textbooks for students now at our high school. And also, just from a curriculum perspective, just to transition from Mr. Burgett talking about facilities, all of the new facilities at the high school and our CHS Industries and just that new building, the Trojan A&M Center, that goes along with it. But there's just a renewed energy, I think we would all feel out there for just the curriculum and just this engagement that students have in learning. It's more hands-on, and I think people feel a little bit more attached to the personal, to the space there, and they just feel more connected to school than they did before.
Wasn't there a coffee shop as well?
There's a coffee shop that's open every morning.
How's that going?
It's going really well, and the students love working at it. They don't even need adult supervision. We have an adult stationed nearby, but they run it themselves. They're very proud of it. Yeah.
High school's so much different now when you think about it, from when I was there, or many, many years ago. When you think about like long-term plans now for buildings and stuff, is there stuff that you're that you're starting to work on that you're going to be doing maybe even after both of you retire? But is there stuff that you kind of have to prepare for?
That right now we're kind of in a pay-as-you-go mode. We took out a debt certificate of $12 million. That money's been spent, so we're really going to have to lean on the 1% sales tax to make those changes. Down the road, I think 5 years from now, when that's paid off, the superintendent, whether it's me or the following superintendent, is really going to have to take a year to say, okay, where are we at now? And then do we want to go ahead and take on another debt certificate? And if we do, what major projects could we do?
Because you always took care of the budget for years.
I still do that.
You're still doing it? I was wondering about that.
I'm working on that this morning.
Okay. It answers that question. The other thing I read a lot about, and my kids are out of high school, so I don't pay near as much attention as I should have. The SATs, ACTs, and all this testing stuff, is it here? Is it gone? Or is it?
It's still here.
Okay. So how is the status now? Do you still take both of them? Or
We just take the ACT. This was the first year in a while. So in the past, Illinois was ACT, then they switched to SAT. This year they were back to the ACT. That's a State Board of Education decision. And so this was the first year back to ACT for our students, and testing went really well. It's in the spring. The rest of our students, grades 3 through high school, they take a test called the Illinois Assessment of Readiness in the spring. That is being discussed. There is plans for change. I know our state superintendent has plans to look at and change. There will always be some sort of state accountability measure for students, though. Just may look different.
I know I talked to you and other school districts on this show and other shows around here that it seemed like there was so much of that stuff going on. It was teachers were getting a little bit like, upset because they can't focus on teaching them whatever it is, language or, accounting. So is there less or more of that, or is that kind of balanced out now?
I think Charleston's always done a really good job of finding the balance of, we don't put all of our eggs in that basket. We just know that there's more to a student than a test score. Yeah. It's important. It tells something about how we're doing in comparison to other districts and the standards, but it's not all there is. We talked about things like CHS Industries and having our students engaged. We know that there's more to it than that. So testing is a really important part of it. But my perspective is, if we're teaching the standards and doing that well and aligning to the rigor of those standards, then our test scores should show it.
Maybe someone doesn't know exactly what all CHS Industries does. Can you explain some of that?
Yeah, there's some. So they're all student-run businesses, and there's different subsidiaries of CHS Industries. We mentioned the coffee shop. Wow. There's a greenhouse out there, and so we have a plant sale in the spring, and so the students grow and sell their plants. We also have a part of it where students make in their carpentry and their constructions classes. They made sheds. They made bags boards. I think dog houses. They've had lots of different projects out there. Sure. Yep. So
the one time that they were back ordered so much on sheds.
Yes.
People were like, it was doing so well they couldn't make them fast
That's
enough.
Pretty much the case for everything they make.
That's so cool.
We also have a bakery, a kitchen, so students that they produce bakery items for the coffee shop to sell, and we also have a car detailing shop. So our students, you can make appointments there. It's online on the CHS Industries webpage. Make an appointment and have your car detailed.
There you go. Chad, this is your first year at the helm after Todd Villardo retired, even though he's still working there a little bit. Talk about your first year a little bit and how it went and things.
I think it went well. A lot of, even though I've been over there for 7 years, until you're the superintendent, you're making those decisions. Some of it was just a learning curve, but with Kristen, Todd, the entire staff over there, I've got so much support, even with the Board of Education. I think it's been a smooth transition. Had some challenges this year, but it's just nice to see continual growth, even if it's just small steps for our district. We were talking about Trojan Industries, but another part of that would be the internships. Mm-hmm. And we had over 100 students doing internships out of 755. And they were getting experiences in a wide range of topics, not only in Charleston, but Mattoon. We had one girl went to an architect firm in Champaign.
Oh, wow.
For 2 hours every other day. And then she's already enrolled at U of I and going to be in architect school. They're keeping her on. So those successes were really good to see. Looking at the budget, I'm always fretting about that, making sure that things are going to be okay, and I'll continue to do that. But really looking at the future and what programs can we continue to add, not only for our students, but our staff and our community as well.
Is there things you're looking at right now, like new student programs or new teacher programs that could be?
Well, I took over last year, and we had coming out of COVID, we had so many irons in the fire at the opening day faculty meeting. I said, I'm not looking to add 10 new programs for us to tackle. We really need to get down
and good at what you're good at,
and get really good at what we're doing with. And although we can say, there's a number of successes with Trojan Industries, there's a lot we can do to tighten it up and make that better. So I think last year and this upcoming year, our focus is going to be what are we doing and what can we do better before we grab onto the next program that comes around. That may sound good, but if you're doing something new, maybe you're not giving enough focus on something we're already doing. We could do a little better.
That makes sense. You touched on this a little bit, Kristen. I almost called you Holly.
That's okay.
Kristen, they like state rules and how things change and national rules with all the things, Department of Education, all that stuff. How do you keep up on it, and how do you introduce that stuff to the teachers? Mid-year, end of the year, summer year. How do you do all that?
Yeah, it's a constant battle. We always are subject to following new regulations, new policies. We have policy committees. We meet, we look at everything, and then whatever needs to happen. I think our staff and the educators are fairly used to that. We have some systems in place where, we value in Charleston collaboration from teachers. So when there's changes coming, or we put teachers at the table, or the people who need to be at the table, or support staff, principals, and let them be part of how are we going to take this initiative or this change coming upon us and make it our own. We've always been a very collaborative district. Decisions are made not just by the two of us, but we involve the voices of the people that are impacted by it.
Could you describe both of your leadership styles when you're dealing with tough issues, Chad and Kristen?
Well, this year's been, like I said, a learning curve on some of that. I think part of it is I pause to just try to think if it's a tough issue, look at different viewpoints or lenses. And I kind of learned this from Dr. Velardo, but, the political lens, but also the social emotional lens to whatever the topic is. And then you look at systems and you look at data and you try to look at all those factors, how they play into the decision. And a lot of time, if something tough's going on, whether it's during the week or on the evenings, or I'll call Mrs. Holly and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What am I missing here as we move forward to try to get that out? And you try to be as open and communicative as you possibly can. It's not always easy on every little circumstance that comes up, but we just really say, what am I missing here? And in the long run, what's best for our students or staff moving forward? So.
Yeah, I'd say mine is fairly similar. We work well together because we work in that way. We like to pause and try not to do anything too drastic without thinking about who this is going to impact and in what way it might impact somebody. I'm a people-oriented person. I usually involve others. If there's a big decision to make, I want to talk it through with somebody. I want to take some time to think about it, and particularly involve those, as I said, that are going to be impacted by it. Get some voices at the table and make sure that I'm thinking about how other people feel about it.
I'm guessing it's nice to have Dr. Velardo in-house, or if you really have a decision, you can at least ask for his advice. And I know he probably is the kind-heartedness would probably say, you guys have to make that decision, but he's got to be a nice person to lean on.
Oh, yes.
Tremendous asset.
Yep.
And he's working, like I mentioned, part-time, but he's completed a number of tasks that we've asked him to do. But we continue, if he's in there, hey, let me pick your brain for a minute. But sometimes he said, well, I'll tell you what I think, and then he'll leave it at that, and then it's up to us to go ahead.
That's cool.
It's nice to have him around to still.
I miss him being here today.
Yeah, we miss him too.
There you go. Your summer duties, people always think Easter's easy in the summer, but actually sometimes it's harder here at WEIU. Is it similar at Charleston? You still got stuff to do, right?
Summer is probably one of the busier times of the year. The difference is we don't have as many fires to put out while we're trying to do the work, but it's grant writing season. It's planning for next year. I mentioned new teacher orientation, but it's when all the big thinking and planning and budgeting and all of that work happens, so that once the school year starts, everything's in place to have a successful school year.
I'd say I spent a lot of time preparing, closing out this year's budget, preparing next year's budget. We're evaluating our new staff coming in. Also, a lot of state things people don't know behind the scenes, like, we serve lunches every day, but you have to go through a process to apply to have each school provide a lunch for students. So those are the things that you do in the summertime. Your transportation claim, you see buses coming and going, but, there's state required forms you need to complete in order to continue to do those things. So those take, and thankfully they're due in the summer when, as you mentioned, there's not as many fires to put out, where you can set time and get that done. So
we have summer school going on right now, and we have so much teacher professional development going on. I think on my calendar, and I'm not leading those necessarily, our instructional coaches are doing that. I will have some professional development for staff too, but there's probably every week at least 4 or 5 professional development development sessions going on throughout the week. So our teachers are busy, they're working, and so sometimes that means, we need to find things to support them. And a lot of people think teachers don't get the summer off, and though they don't report to students every day, they work really hard over the summer too, getting ready for next school year.
When you talk about like the budget, do you look like all the way back, or do you look like all the way to like kindergarten, first grade, second grade? See how many students are enrolled in Charleston?
Actually, that's part of it. We do every year, I believe it's in September, we give the board a projection on where we're going to be, and then we go back a number of years. So years ago, Charleston did see a decline in attendance or student enrollment. However, it's leveled off, and we're projected to go up maybe 10 or 20 students. But if you think of 20 students or even 50 students plus students who move in, that could have an impact, a big impact on a grade level. If you get 20 first graders, then you're discussing, do we need to add another class of first grade? So that really goes into the budget planning.
What's the optimum number of people you'd like to have at the high school? I mean, is there, in terms of, really 9th through 12th grade, is there like 800, 1,200? I mean, is there a number that kind of is?
I'd like to see... Right now we're about 755. It would be nice to be at 800, but then we're also looking at is there courses that we need to expand because those extra 50 students would be in need.
Yeah.
What right now you think is the toughest part of the job? Is it dealing with parents? I have to ask, or is it the budget stuff that?
I'd say the unknown. Like sometimes you just don't know what's coming at you, and then you have to pause and deal with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, thankfully I've got a good team to help me through that. I think that'd be one of the toughest.
Yeah, I would say it's the unknown challenges from that just. You start off with this is what I'm hoping to accomplish this week, or these are things I have to accomplish, but then something happens and it changes the course of what you're going to do for the week.
Do you write grants too? Or
I do. Yeah, I do all the grant writing in the summer. So I'm working on that right now, trying to get that everything, and then throughout the year, then you just really manage the budgets for them and just make sure that, you're submitting expenditure reports. But working with principals and listening to teachers and making decisions based on the programs that we have, what we need to support that.
How often do you pick the minds of other people in the school district, or or do you go outside, or how's that work?
Well, once a month we have an administrative council meeting where all the administrators come in, and we'll have an agenda of things that we want to talk over. And I think part of the time at the end of that we do what's called an around the table, for them to bring up some topics that they may be struggling with. We also have a instructional leadership meeting of the same group of people, and it's a chance for them to say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can someone help me? And then you've got your colleagues there to do that. Cool. On the bigger level, though, there's 2 or 3 superintendents that they know I'm new, and they reached out to me and just said, hey, if you got any questions, give me a call. And throughout the year, I'll call 2 or 3 of them, and they pick up every time and are able to help me out. So that's appreciative.
We're down last 45 seconds today with Kristen Holly and Chad Burgett from Charleston. Anything that I didn't talk about that you can quickly want to get out there for Charleston parents or residents?
No, I just think, Mr. Burgett mentioned keeping up, just maintaining the programs and sustaining what we have. I think that's really important. We've worked really hard at Leader and Me and our competency-based, and I think it's important for us to just continue to work on that and not add anything new. Just keep getting better at it.
I would say, on a shifting gears here, just to let family members know, registration for next year already is July 9th. So if they can get online and register their children, that's when it opens. And schools start on August 12th.
It's hard to believe. It's not that far away.
It's crazy.
I know.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's great seeing you too.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you either in the fall or next year at the same time.
Sounds good.
We are WEIU.